neza imari yawe. Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM. Ibiyobyabwenge birica kandi birangiza. Rinda ubuzima bwawe n'ubwa mugenzi wawe, tugira igihugu kizira ibiyobyabwenge. Rubyiruko nimwe musingi ukomeye w'igihugu. Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM.
Radio Imanzi 105.1 FM.
We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
This is Radio Imanzi broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English, brought to you by Fiona Umuganwa and Sandra Shuti. The headlines. President Paul Kagame arrived in Maputo, Mozambique today. The governor of the Eastern Province, Emmanuel Gassana, has urged commercial cyclists operating in Gramagana district to put safety first in their transport services. U.S. President Joe Biden says he has signed the Kigali Amendment Protocol aimed to protect the ozone layer and accelerate actions to mitigate climate change. Welcome back. News in detail. President Paul Kagame arrived in Maputo, Mozambique today, where he was welcomed by President Nyusi at the office of the president for a head-to-head discussion followed by a bilateral meeting with both delegations. The visit comes at a time when Rwanda and Mozambique enjoyed cordial bilateral relations. Just 1 week ago, both countries signed an agreement on the exemption from visa requirements for holders of ordinary passports in a bid to encourage free movement and enhance collaboration between both countries. General Kazura has made commander of French contingent deployed in Gabon today. Sandra Nchuti continues with more on this story.
Thank you very much. The Chief of Defense Staff of the Rwanda Defense Force RDF, General Jean Bosco Kazura, has received Brigadier General François-Xavier Mabin, the commander of the French contingent deployed in Gabon. Brigadier General Mabin is in Rwanda on a 4-day official visit which ends on Friday. According to an RDF statement, Brigadier General Mabin's visit aims at strengthening military cooperation between RDF and the French armed forces following discussions held in Paris in March between General Kazura and his French counterpart, General Thierry Boucard. Brigadier General Mabin said, "We have set up a roadmap and today we are in the implementation which will result in numerous cooperation actions and exchanges starting in 2023. Brigadier General Mabin and his delegation also had a bilateral discussions with other Rwandan army officials at the RDF headquarters. Earlier on Tuesday, Brigadier Mabin and the delegation paid respect to the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi at Kigali Genocide Memorial and also visited the Campaign Against Genocide Museum. Back to you, Fiona.
Rwanda and Ghana have launched a business forum to jointly capitalize on business opportunities and strengthen public-private partnerships in both countries. The forum launched was in Accra, Ghana, and attended by stakeholders in business, tourism, education, agriculture, and others from both countries. The forum will be one way of enabling the African Common Market, Africa Continental Free Trade Area signed in 2020 in Kigali. One of the main goals of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is to increase trade between these countries and to reduce the cost of exporting goods from one African country to another by 97%. Rwanda's Minister of Trade and Industry, Dr. Jean Chrysostom Gabitsinze, told the forum that Rwanda supports the existing cooperation with Ghana, especially in promoting business and trade between the two countries. Gabitsinze called on the forum to work hard to ensure success, especially in the manufacturing industry, which has potential to transform trade on the continent, even when Africa is considered incapable of manufacturing. Rwanda ranked first in Africa and 42nd globally in adherence to rule of law, according to the World Justice Project's Rule of Law Index 2022. The World Justice Project is an international civil society organization with a stated mission of working to advance the rule of law around the world. Its Rule of Law Index is a quantitative assessment tool designed to offer a detailed and comprehensive picture of the extent to which countries adhere to the rule of law in practice. Other top performers in Africa are Mauritius with 45%. 45th globally, Namibia 46th globally, Botswana 51st globally, and South Africa scoring 54th globally. The Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Emergency Management, Philippe Habinshuti, said today that the government has embarked on building an inventory of the damaged structures a day after a strong windstorm mixed with a heavy downpour hit parts of the country, destroying several infrastructure including schools, homes, and injuring some students. Habinshuti says there are reports of some students being injured by rebels during the storm, and the details are still being collected. He assured the public that after taking stock of the damage, relief operations will begin. The Director of Studies at Groupe Scolaire Camp Kigali, Didier Nahimana, said while the students were in class, the storm and the rain became heavier. 7 classrooms and the kitchen were damaged. He added that fortunately no one was injured and also pointed out that it is not only his school that was affected but also GS Nyarufunzo and Groupe Scolaire Muganza was also damaged. Nahimana added that local leaders visited the school premises and asked the school to list what was damaged so that it can be repaired. The Rwanda National Police has seized smuggled liquors worth 50 million Rwandan francs. Sandra Nshuti continues with more on this report.
The Rwanda National Police RNP Anti-Smuggling and Organized Crime ACOC unit has seized assorted wines, spirits and beers in Gisenyi sector, Rubavu district, valued at about 50 million Rwandan francs. The wines and liquors, including Hennessy, Moet and Jameson, were recovered on Wednesday, October 26th in a house located in Gisenyi town, Rubavu Cell, Munini village. Chief Inspector of Police CIP Mucho Rukundo, the Western Region Police Political and Civic Education Officer RPCEO, say that one person was arrested over the alleged smuggling and fraud caught on Wednesday, October 25th at about 11 p.m. in response to credible information on smuggled alcoholic beverages stored in a house in Gisenyi town. The ACOC team and the regional police unit went to the said house where boxes of assorted wines, spirit and beers were recovered. Among them, 138 bottles of Hennessy, 120 bottles of Leffe beer, 96 bottles of Moet, 72 bottles of Bacardi, 120 bottles of Leffe beer, 96 bottles of Moet, 72 bottles of Bacardi, 72 bottles of Grand Marnier, 65 bottles of Jameson, 54 Sheridan, and 39 among others, quote CIP Rukundo. Say that other wines and whiskey recovered include Glenfiddich, Absolute, Veuve Clicquot, and Double Black. And quote, one suspect identified as Mbarushimana alias Dani was arrested at the store. The second person, said to be rightful owner of the wines and liquors, identified as Gakwaya Silas, is still on the run, called CIP Rukundo. Added that Mbarushimana told the police that he was hired by Gakwaya to guard the house. He added that the goods were sneaked into the Rwanda form of Democratic Republic of Congo at night. Smuggling is punishable under the East African Community Management Act, which is applicable in Rwanda, which provides the seized smuggled goods under the Article 199 and auctioned. A taxpayer who commits fraud is also subjected to an administrative fine of 100% of the evaded tax and likely imprisonment of 6 months and 2 years. Back to you, Fiona.
The governor of the Eastern Province, Emmanuel Gasana, has urged commercial cyclists operating in Gwamagana district to put safety first in their transport services. He made the call while addressing about 700 cyclists at the Chigabiru playground in Chigabiru sector. Governor Gasana asked them to operate professionally, saying it requires them to be in cooperatives, avoiding riding while drunk, love and work for their country, and to put safety and security ahead in whatever they do. He further appealed to them to subscribe to Ejoheza, an inclusive scheme targeting both salaried and non-salaried workers to help accumulate savings for a dignified and secure old age. The Eastern Region Police Commander, ACP Innocent R. Kanyamihigo, reminded them of their role in community policing. He cautioned them against holding onto moving vehicles, working with drug dealers, and indulging in other unlawful acts. The cyclists were also urged to always share information on people involved in unlawful practices, fight gender-based violence and child abuse. We shall come back with economic news.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi. Economic
Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report of today. The trading session recorded a turnover of 176,014,423 worth Rwandan francs, worth the bonds traded in 2 deals on the fixed income market at 52,500 Rwandan francs from 300 MTN shares traded in 1 deal to the equities market. MTN Rwanda counter closed at 175 Rwandan francs. Equities counters closed with MTN Rwanda at 175, Bralirwa at 170 Rwandan francs, Bank of Kigali at 272 Rwandan francs, I&M Bank at 43 Rwandan francs, Simerwa at 120 Rwandan francs, Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Uchumi Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 as the market closed.
The currency market review of today. Burundian franc buying price was 0.5 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.51. Ugandan shilling buying price was 0.27 and the selling price was 0.272. Tanzanian shilling buying price was 0.44 and the selling price was 0.45. Kenyan shilling buying price was 8.5 and the selling price was 8.7. The euro buying price was 1,036 and the selling price was 1,056. British pound buying price 1,200 Rwandan francs and the selling price 1,224. The US dollar buying price 1,037 and the selling price 1,058 Rwandan francs. We should come back with international news.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
U.S. President Joe Biden says he has signed the Kigali Amendment Protocol aimed to protect the ozone layer and accelerate actions to mitigate climate change. Biden described the signing as a historic bipartisan win for American manufacturing and global climate action. The Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol is an international agreement that compels countries to limit use of hydrofluorocarbons, highly potent greenhouse gases commonly used in refrigerators and air conditioning that are supposedly more powerful than carbon dioxide. The measure requires participating nations to phase down production and use of hydrofluorocarbons by 85% over the next 14 years as part of a global initiative intended to slow climate change. White House climate advisor Ali Zaid said for the U.S., the formal ratification of the Kigali Agreement with Biden's signature means the U.S. is all in on reducing hydrofluorocarbons and advancing global efforts to combat climate change. He also said that the agreement should lead to tens of thousands of new jobs and billions of dollars in exports as clean technologies are developed to replace hydrofluorocarbons around the world. Biden's endorsement also comes off the heels of a major climate summit COP 27 that is slated for next month in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, during which global leaders discuss ways to prevent climate crisis. 6 children in Uganda from the same family have caught Ebola. Sandra Nshuti has more on this report.
Thank you. 6 children in the same Kampala family have contracted Ebola. Authorities in Uganda Capsule says for weeks medics have been calling for tougher measures to prevent the virus spreading to Kampala. Viruses can spread faster in densely populated areas, and this particular strain of Ebola, called the Sudan strain, has no vaccine yet. Earlier this month, the district at the epicenter of this outbreak, Mubende and Kasanda, were put under quarantine. The 6 siblings got infected after a relative came to stay from one of the country's worst affected districts and later died. Health authorities confirmed since the outbreak began in September, Uganda's health ministry has recorded 109 cases and 30 deaths, and later died. Health authorities confirmed that some fear the President Yoweri Museveni was too slow to act on the early warnings from the health workers about the viral hemorrhagic fever. Health Minister Jane Ruth Acheng says that she is increasingly concerned about the transmission of the virus in urban areas where the population is highly mobile. The 6 siblings who tested positive for Ebola in the capital have not been named and had their ages revealed to protect their identities, but we do know that the schools these children attend have not been closed. Dr. Acheng says 6 health workers who became infected after treating patients are also among those who recently died. Kampala is the country's economic hub, and if Ebola spreads first, there is a greater risk that the virus spreading to other countries.
The Tanzanian authorities began rationing water in the economic capital Dar es Salaam after water levels dropped as its main source, the Ruvu River, dried up. The city's 5.5 million residents will be deprived of running water for 24 hours on alternate days, according to the Dar es Salaam Water and Sanitation Authority. The water agency says the schedule will be updated weekly depending on how the change is weather will increase or decrease water levels. Tanzania, like its East African neighbors, is experiencing later rainfall, with meteorologists warning that the prolonged dry spell will continue. Water supply from the Ruvu River has dropped from 466 million litres a day to about 300 million litres per day, according to water officials, while the city consumes about 500 million litres per day. Somalia has started a program to rebuild its electricity grid. Sandra Nshuti continues with more.
Somalia has started a program to rebuild its electricity grid, signaling a further step to emerge from years of violence in which most state institutions and agencies were destroyed. Prime Minister Hamza Abdi Bar officially launched the Somali Electricity Sector Recovery Project, aiming at increasing access to affordable and reliable electricity to the Somali people, as well as re-establishing the electricity supply industry across Somalia. The Ministry of Energy and Water Resources will implement the project in partnership with the World Bank Group.
Tech entrepreneur Elon Musk has officially become Twitter's owner, fired top executives, and provided some clarity over how he will achieve his ambitions for the influential social media platform. He tweeted saying the bird is freed, referencing Twitter's bird logo in an apparent nod to his desire to see the company have fewer limits on content that can be posted. He, however, also said he wants to prevent the platform from becoming an echo chamber for hate and division. Other goals include wanting to defeat spam bots on Twitter and make the algorithms that determine how content is presented to its users publicly available. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.